I want you to remember that your identity is bigger than any relationship. Your identity, my identity, our identities are much bigger than any single relationship, even a toxic one. While it can be easy to let a toxic relationship consume our thoughts and emotions, and I won't even say easy, it's super painful to let a toxic relationship consume our thoughts and emotions. It's important to remember that we have many different aspects to our identity that deserve attention and nurturing. And by focusing on these other aspects of our life, we can find greater fulfillment and resilience and avoid the trap of letting a toxic relationship define us. Now, when a relationship breaks, it can often lead to an identity crisis. And this is because many people allow their identity to be solely defined by that relationship, and they lose sight of their own individuality. They may have spent so much time and energy focused on the relationship that they have neglected their own needs and interests. As a result, when the relationship becomes difficult or ends, they may feel lost and unsure of who they are. They may feel like they have lost their bearings and struggle to navigate the world without the relationship as a guiding force, even if it is a toxic one. Now, it's important to remember that our identity is much more than any single relationship. And by nurturing all aspects of our lives, we can maintain a strong sense of self even in the face of adversity. Now, what are these other aspects of our material identity and our deep spiritual identity, the foundation of them all? So, different aspects of our material identity could be, some examples here are our professional identity, our social identity, our relational identity. And then, of course, we have our spiritual identity, and both need to be nurtured and taken care of. Now, in your professional identity, it involves roles we play in our careers and the skills and experiences we bring to the table. By focusing on our professional identity, we can work towards achieving our career goals, building our skills and knowledge, and finding greater satisfaction and fulfillment in our work. This can involve seeking out new opportunities for growth and development, networking with others in our field, and honing our skills through ongoing training and education. Social identity is another aspect that we need to develop so that we can feel complete and whole as we navigate the difficult toxic relationship, so that that toxic relationship doesn't consume every bit of our being. When we nurture our professional identity, when we nurture the social identity of ours, we realize we are much bigger than this one relationship that's not working out right now. Yes? So in our social identity, it involves the roles we play in our relationship with others, including our friends and community. And by nurturing our social identity, the contribution we make to our society, the area we live in, the schools our children go to, the parks we go to, the communities we belong to, etc., we can build such strong and supportive relationships that help us to feel more connected and fulfilled. And this can also involve spending time with people that we like, participating in social events or group activities, volunteering, and reaching out to others for support and connection. And then comes your relational identity. And we're not just defined by our relationship with that one person with which things are not working out right now. We may be a mother, father, sister, brother, friend, colleague, and so much more. We're so much more than that one relationship. And by nurturing these other relationships in our life, we can maintain a sense of balance and perspective and avoid becoming completely consumed by the failing relationship with a toxic person. It's important to remember that our identity is multifaceted, and by focusing on other important relationships in our life, we can stay grounded and maintain a healthy sense of self. Now, the material identity, which is based on our profession, society, our relationships, jobs, social status, possessions, and so much more, are important to nurture because we identify with the body and the things connected to our body. But it is important to also remember that they are temporary and they end with death. And there will always be ups and downs in those aspects of our identity as well. And if we're too attached, then it can make us go emotionally up and down. It may impact our sense of self-worth. It may impact our sense of happiness, increase our frustration in life, and so much more. Yes? And for us to be able to tide through all of that and remain balanced and remain focused and remain stable and remain at ease in our lives, it is important that we also focus on connecting very strongly with our spiritual identity. One thing that really helped me is of reading the entire Srimad Bhagavat more than a decade ago, studying it to whatever best I could do with my capacity. And that really shifted something inside of me, that I was able to deal with all kinds of stuff in my life without getting completely disturbed or without getting phased. I was always able to connect back to that spiritual identity with reading of Srimad Bhagavatam had given to me. And it helped me navigate the very difficult and perplexing lives that we have. Now, the spiritual identity is permanent and it's eternal, as it is a quality of the soul. And this identity is based on our relationship with God and our true nature as spiritual beings. We're not material beings, we're spiritual beings. We're not this body, we're not these things connected to the body. And all these things that connect to the body, they end with the body, right? So we have a much deeper sense of being, a much more eternal being that we are, and we're spiritual. And focusing on our spiritual identity helps us understand our purpose and meaning in life beyond material possessions and achievements. It helps us connect with our true selves and experience inner peace and happiness. And this is why nurturing our spiritual identity is important and can provide a sense of fulfillment that is not dependent on external factors. Now, nurture your spiritual identity. The foundation is that we are part and parcel of God, and we are His servant, and He is our master. And remember this one thing: people can take away everything from you. Everything. Your social status, your relationships, your profession, your earnings, everything. And while we do nurture those aspects of our identity, and it's important because the ego needs that identity to function in the material world, there is one thing that nobody can take away from you. Nobody. That has been given to you by God, and even God can't take away that from you. And that involves our relationship with God, our sense of purpose and meaning, our values and beliefs. Nobody can take away that identity of being a part and parcel of God. Now, by focusing on our spiritual identity, we can find greater inner peace and fulfillment and a sense of connection to something larger than ourselves. This can involve exploring new spiritual practices and traditions, strengthening our existing spiritual practices and traditions, meditating, praying regularly, engaging in acts of service, charity, and reflecting on our values and beliefs. And it's important to remember that our identity, this spiritual identity of ours, is bigger than any single relationship, bigger than the identity we carry in our lives, much bigger than that. And giving too much importance to a toxic relationship and can be a real recipe for failure. And by focusing on these different identities, our professional, social, and our spiritual identity, we can find greater fulfillment and resilience and avoid becoming defined by a toxic relationship. And it requires that we set goals for ourselves in each of these areas, seek out opportunities for growth and development, and surround ourselves with supportive people who help us to feel valued and empowered. And I'll share a story with you of a client of mine, a woman power leader and a very successful professional woman who held the position of vice president in her company. And she approached us for coaching. And her happiness in her professional life was often overshadowed by the constant negativity and manipulation by her mother-in-law. And her mother-in-law was always trying to create problems between her and her husband, pulling him away from her and creating a toxic atmosphere in the family. And this woman was always insecure about her relationship with her husband because of this, fearing that he may choose his mother over her, believe her lies, and so many things. And this fear consumed her and made her act in unpleasant and unintelligent ways at home. And despite having a very strong professional, social, and relational identity, she felt incomplete and insecure. Now, through our coaching, we helped her nurture her spiritual identity. And she connected with her true self, an eternal soul, part and parcel of God, and realized that no one, not even her mother-in-law, could take that away from her. And that's her resting place, her real place of calm, her real place of stability. And that's what we are all looking for, isn't it? And nobody can take that away from you. And as she started working on healing herself and deepening her spiritual practices, such as chanting the holy names and acts of service to the Lord, she felt more at peace and relieved despite her mother-in-law's continued negativity. And she realized that her spiritual identity was the one thing that she could hold on to in the face of all challenges that she faced in her life. She no longer allowed her mother-in-law's behavior to affect her or her relationship with her husband. And in the end, the woman found a sense of completement and satisfaction and great emotional and existential security by nurturing her spiritual identity. And she learned that material identities are temporary, but the spiritual identity is eternal, and it is a key to finding lasting, true happiness and peace. That doesn't mean you don't nurture the other identities connected to your body, the professional, relational, social, etc., because we are tatastha, so we're spiritual beings, but we identify with matter. It's very difficult to, take your brain away from that. So therefore and plus to function in the material world, you need those identities. So it's important that you nurture them, but the true foundation needs to be your spirituality. I'll share another example with you of the Pandavas. And the Pandavas are a great example of this. They were constantly facing obstacles and challenges in their life due to the toxic relationship they had with Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra. And however, they never let their circumstances define them. They continued to nurture their identities in all aspects of their life, their professional, social, relational, and spiritual identities. They honed their skills in archery, sword fighting, and other arts, and prepared themselves for the battle that lay ahead. And they also built many new relationships during their Vanavas, which helped them to maintain a sense of connection and support. And the Pandavas, despite going through numerous trials and tribulations, or facing death at every step, never faced an identity crisis because they were firmly rooted in their spiritual identity. They were always conscious of their relationship with Lord Sri Krishna and their eternal position as his loving servants, and this understanding gave them the strength and resilience to face any situation that came their way. Even after losing their kingdom and being exiled to the forest, they did not waver in their devotion to the Lord. Their unwavering faith and connection with Krishna gave them the confidence to face every challenge with grace and determination that was thrown their way by those toxic Kauravas. And their spiritual identity was the foundation of their strength and helped them overcome every obstacle in life. So they did not let that toxic relationship with Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra consume them, but rather they focused on building themselves up and preparing for the future. They knew that their identity was much bigger than any single relationship, and that by nurturing all aspects of their life, especially their spiritual identity, they could find greater fulfillment and resilience. So, in conclusion, while a toxic relationship can be all-consuming, it's important to remember that our spiritual identity is the most important aspect of our being. As complex and multifaceted individuals, we have many different aspects to our identity, and by nurturing all those aspects, we can find fulfillment and resilience, but we must also, very importantly, nurture our spiritual identity. And this connection to our spiritual self allows us to stay grounded and centered, and helps us avoid becoming defined by a single relationship. By doing so, you reclaim your sense of self and move forward with strength and purpose, knowing that your spiritual identity is a stable foundation upon which you can build all other aspects of your identity and your life and your contribution to this world. So then the pain, the difficulty, the emotional distress, etc., coming from that toxic relationship, it starts becoming really, really small, feels really small. You tend to focus on it less. As you nurture other aspects of your life and you use your energy in focusing on your own inner spiritual growth and your external growth in all these different identities. So at Ease Life Coaching, we have many clients who have become more solid in themselves by us helping them develop other aspects of their material identity and going deeper in their spiritual identity. It has also helped them nurture their marriage and work on their purpose. And if you haven't looked into the higher tiers of the group coaching calls and the one-on-one coaching, etc., you may look at those at any point and send us a message and we'll help you get to those. Yes. So thank you very much, and look forward to continuously serving you.